All right, on this episode of Bare Knuckle Bowker, very excited to be talking to an individual who's getting ready to throw down in bare knuckle boxing and very much an anticipated endeavor for someone who's done great things in MMA and boxing throughout the Canadian scene and going to be throwing down on November 28th in Red Deer as part of Havoc FC's looming card. Great getting to have Cody Krahn on Bare Knuckle Bowker today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, thanks. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like something that I think is a pretty overt, obvious question right away, I suppose. I wasn't really seeing the name and information of your opponent related to this card. I saw like a poster promoting the fight and everything. Like, what do you know about your opponent for this one? I saw you said he looks jail tough and stuff like that. But like beyond that, what do you know about this guy?
Yeah, I saw a picture of the guy, and he looks hard. He looks like a scary dude. And you're right. Like, there's not much information to go on because he's only had one bare knuckle fight, and that's as far as Google has told me. That's as far as any sort of professional fight experience that he has. So I took it upon myself to download the BKFC app, and I watched his fight with Caden. All 10 seconds of it, and it's kind of hard. It was a short fight. He had a very unfortunate injury that caused the end of the fight. But the commentators mentioned that he was apparently he had played some hockey, and he was my guess is probably a bit of an enforcer, a guy who liked to fight or something like that, and he wants to make the switch to this. And boy, what a treat, because I have always wanted to get into a fight with a hockey enforcer, and now I get my chance. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I guess with like the specific piece of it being in bare knuckle, like when did you, I guess, get more familiar with that kind of scene in terms of like the want to participate in it? Like when did that kind of seed initially get planted, like in as far as like, I'd like to give this a go someday?
I think it was recent that I've decided that I want to. We're getting pretty short on fight opportunities, and I'm 41 years old, so I'm not going to be fighting much longer, anyways. So I think it's more of something I want to check off the bucket list. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think bare knuckle boxing is kind of fucking stupid. It's a pretty brutal sport. It's designed for brain damage and injuries, but the thing is, the people love it, and I've been to the shows, and it's entertaining as hell. But it is the next most ridiculous sport, if you want to call slap fighting a sport. It is the next most ridiculous thing, but it's exciting. When I went to the fight card, I think there was something like 15 fights, and the show was over before 10 o'clock. Just because all the fights were so fast, everything was so violent. It's go, go, go. It's the action. This is what people want to watch. And the thing is, I'm pretty sure I'd be good at it. I was kind of resistant to it at first, but a lot of fighters and my friends that know me from training and stuff like that, they're like, Cody, you're the kind of guy who should be doing bare knuckle boxing. And I digress. I think that, my kind of aggressive style and willingness to stay in the pocket and trade, I think it does translate very well to this sport for me.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, I feel like anytime I've seen you fight, not even just video footage, but being live there in person, like you have a certain way of going about fighting that I think would lend itself so well to a sport like this. And that's interesting that you mentioned that piece about, still having those certain thoughts on bare knuckle. Cause I guess my thought process was I feel like anytime I've seen you on social media post about bare knuckle, it's usually in that type of context, like, oh, this is a pretty dumb sport or some derivative of that kind of thing. So I was even a little curious when I saw you were, signing up for this and
You know
everything like
what
that.
though?
But yeah,
You know what though? All combat sports are kind of ridiculous, right? Like the whole idea that we're agreeing to beat each other up and give each other injuries and brain damage and stuff like that. But I've warmed up to it, that's for sure. Like I said, I still think it's kind of a ridiculous sport, but it's exciting as hell. These 2 minute rounds, both guys start right in the pocket within punching distance. I think the fastest fight in bare knuckle history was like 2 seconds or something like that. Like it is go, go, go. People like that kind of shit. So like I said, I'm short. I'm short on time, and I really don't have a whole lot of fights left in the tank. So it's kind of more like I want to be able to tell people I did this.
yeah, no, for sure. So, I mean, I guess based on how you're talking about it, I would make the inference that this is maybe perhaps like a one and done kind of effort, or is there more of a longevity, like maybe get in a few bare knuckle fights kind of mindset attached to this endeavor?
Um, well, let's see what kind of injuries I have when I'm done. That's certainly going to be a big part of it. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm probably the next guy in line for a title shot. The 205 belt is going to be up for grabs. It's vacant now because my boy Taylor Bull has moved on to fighting in Bare Knuckle, the organization BKFC, and he's decided to vacate his belt. So he's given the other guys a chance to strive for that belt as well. And he's a training partner of mine, so he's someone I would never would have fought for that title anyways. But now it's up for grabs, and it's between a couple of really tough guys. So let's worry about who I got in front of me right now. But once that's said and done, if I win, yeah, I want a title shot.
And that's an interesting thing to mention because Taylor Bull has been doing such great things. Like you said, he's won a Canadian championship with Havoc and has won in BKFC, has a subsequent fight coming up. And that interview I have is ready to drop slash maybe already dropped, depending on how I roll out everything. But in any event, I
Right.
guess like the thing I kind of wanted to touch on was almost I guess related to if you've gleaned any particular information from Taylor Bull or even just anyone who has done bare knuckle before that you can maybe glean some insights from. Is there any of that kind of component here?
Well, here I'll zoom in. You can see my eye right there. That's actually compliments of our friend Taylor Bull. So, I've been able to pick his brain about it a little bit. I'm actually going to be fortunate enough to be his cornerman when he goes to Michigan next weekend for his fight.
Hmm.
So, I think it's safe to say I'll probably get a pretty good idea of how things go that night. Um, but I've sparred in 4 ounce and 7 ounce gloves before, and that's kind of the same idea where you can't really block shots. It's more about moving your head and stuff like that, and it kind of changes up the dynamic of. It's not boxing, that's for sure. This is much more of a fist fight than it is a sport. For that exact reason, is that it's more about like trying to get your head out of the way and also just trying to hit the guy first and stuff like that. So I feel like I'm already kind of versed in it, and it's hard to say, until you hop in there, you can always talk about how good you think you're going to be.
Yeah, and I guess that's really probably the thing with any combat sport to an extent, but just in terms of even covering bare knuckle as like a regular beat for myself, like it seems like that first fight is just such a sink or swim kind of thing. Like it just really has that like I guess clear indication of like this is what your aptitude is for this, or conversely, like, hey, maybe this isn't for me so much. Like I feel like even relative experience advantages in bare knuckle can sometimes be such a big difference. But yeah, I guess to your point, you can't really, speculate on how good you'll do at something you ultimately haven't done yet.
Well, everyone thinks that they're good until they get punched in the face, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing too is like how many I'm sure you've seen as many times as I have where there's a guy, he gets hit with a shot that'll drop him, but you could tell he just didn't like the way it felt, or it broke something, or it just really hurt him. There's a lot of times where those guys, they could make the 8 count, but they just you can see they just it's like, oh, this is worse than I thought it was. This is a little too real. And like even when you get hit from boxing gloves to MMA gloves, that's a pretty big difference as far as like the realness of the knuckles and stuff like that feel. So as soon as you go to bare knuckle, that really adds another element of it. And yeah, like you said, sink or swim. I think there's a few guys that are about that life until they get hit. So we'll see how I do.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting. And I guess one thing I did want to kind of touch on, and I mean, sometimes Tapology reports certain things where it's maybe not always accurate, but one of the better aggregators, all the same. I guess the thing that I'm touching on is from a Havoc card circa February of last year, where it said there was a booking against Josh Kitchen and then you withdrew. Like, is that accurate? And also, if so, I guess what happened with that situation?
Oh yes. So since COVID, I've had 3 surgeries. Lucky me. And so that one was that was about 3 months after I had surgery on this elbow. I had about I want to say 50 pieces. The doctor said over 50 pieces of bone that they had to and foreign pieces of objects like scar tissue and stuff like that. They had to remove from my elbow. But 2 months afterwards, I was hitting the bag and I was sparring and things were going good. And the fight with Josh Kitchen came up, and I'm like, oh hell, I'm like, he's a tough guy. I'm like, that'd be a pretty fun fight. And started getting ready for it. And then I developed bursitis, and
Hmm.
I had to go to the emergency room twice within 1 week to have my elbow drained. And the second time, the doctor told me that if you keep doing this, you have a very good chance of this forming an infection or all sorts of other things that might have led to more surgeries. And so, yeah, ultimately, I stepped away from making my bare knuckle debut that night, and I guess I'm kind of maybe hopefully making up for it now.
Yeah, and I did see some posts in relation to that, like just like the recovery and everything like that. I guess I didn't necessarily like interlock those timelines per se, but it seemed like you, even like at the beginning of it, really acknowledged it would be a longer recovery. And it seemed like you really, I guess, handled it in a way where you incrementally built back up to what you're doing and everything like that. So, yeah, no, just great to see that everything's kind of in alignment with that and everything, just kind of like back to it and healthy again, just in even in a general life sense and stuff like that. So glad the recovery panned out well.
Yeah, and I thank you. I really learned a lot off that. I decided to take, after having to pull out of that fight, it's like, okay, well, that's a shitty move to have to do. Luckily, Josh was very understanding of the reason why and all that stuff. So, I took a little bit more time with recovery. And then, of course, I had my fight with Chris Chapman where I ended up tearing this bicep. And so that was a good lesson having my other arm go like that. Then I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this again, let's slow it down and do the recovery properly. So, that was back in March. So we're talking by the time that I fight, it'll be 8 months, which is 2 months past the point of having full, complete recovery. And I'm back to lifting to where I was at now. The last, I'd say, month and a half, it's kind of felt basically normal again. So, yeah, it's been very, it's been, you get learning curves along the way, and sometimes it's with injuries, and you just learn that, take your foot off the gas. Sometimes you'll do better.
Yeah, and I mean, referencing your last fight and even a couple previous ones, just your last three combat sports competitions being boxing, but also you mentioning that there are distinct differences between boxing and bare knuckle. And I saw you had a post that kind of, I guess, aligned with that prior point you were talking about, where it seems like speed and head movement are larger variables in, gloveless combat. Like, what other
Mhm.
differences have you noticed, or I guess specific amendments you're making in training to, prepare for this? Like, I guess what outside considerations are there as compared to prior combat sports you've
Um,
participated in?
the big thing, clinch. With bare knuckle, we're allowed to do dirty boxing, right? So you're allowed to do the single collar clinch and grab onto guys like that. Fortunately, I feel that I'm very good in the clinch, especially with my Muay Thai training throughout the decades now at this point. Um, and I think that there's a lot more head hunting in bare knuckle. Like there's not so much of the body shots being set up as there are big shots to the head, right? So again, that's where the head movement is a big important part of it, because you're not going to be able to parry and block those shots when they don't have gloves on. But it also seems like a lot more of it's just about trying to implement damage and knock the other guy out, as opposed to scoring points and doing damage to the body and stuff like that. So I might try to mix that up a little bit and throw some shots to his ribs if it gives me the opportunity.
Yeah, and that is a fair point. And I think the idea of body shots becoming more of a prevalent thing in bare knuckle, I am curious as to why I guess more of that hasn't happened. Like, you think it would make a great deal of sense, just being that it's like a softer part of the body and you can really dig the knuckles in, but also maintain, I guess, that structural integrity of your hand, as it were. So, yeah.
I think it's also the fact that it's much more of a fist fight, and in a, let's say, like a street fight sense, it's about trying to knock your opponent out. Not trying to soften up his body for the next couple rounds or something like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think a good way of describing that is like when Taylor and I would do our rounds, we would say like, okay, let's start off easy, let's kind of ease into it. Every time I spar with that guy, we fight each other. It's a fight. It's 4 rounds of us beating the tar out of each other, and there's a different pace to it as well. Even though they're 2 minute rounds, you're hucking the whole time, so you're
Mm-hmm.
still getting pretty tired after 2 or 3 rounds. So that's kind of an interesting aspect to have to add to as well, is that, like, you need to make sure that you're moving your head, but you also have the energy to be moving your head, because that costs a lot more energy to be constantly moving your head as opposed to parrying and blocking, right? So has to add into the strategy. And, if you're going to be moving your head out of the way, you better be working on your counters as well, rather than just, draining your own energy trying to make sure you don't get hit.
Yeah, for sure. And this next question isn't really like a fight related question, but I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on the meal prep there, because I saw you had a prior post about a week or so ago talking about how great smash tacos are for that. Like, what are we cooking up here for the meal prep?
I'm just doing a stir fry today. I had some chicken in my fridge that I was looking at the due date, and we only got a little bit more time left on it. So I went to the grocery store and I grabbed some of my favorites. I grabbed some poblano peppers because I really don't like green, red, or yellow peppers. I
Mm.
find poblanos have a little bit more flavor, and they're kind of the same content of vitamins. Got some red onion and some spinach, and then I'm also going to throw in some canned baby corn and water chestnuts because they're delicious and they're vegetables, and I'm allowed to do that. And they're crunchy.
No, I love that. It sounds like some great meal prep to go off of and stuff like that. I feel like you've always been like good about that kind of piece of, I guess, like the fight game and stuff like that. Like I remember doing an interview with you. I think it was ahead of when you fought KB Buller in like May of 2019, and you were getting some blended up greens and oats and things of that persuasion going on, and some turkey ball veggie soup. So it seems like the, I guess, you know, nutrition piece has always been like a pretty predominant part of what you've done. Like you always seem like you're good about that.
I really like food. So the problem is that I'm also a fat kid at heart.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can't make healthy food taste good, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to sneak out to Wendy's and grab a burger instead, and then just try to do the cardio to burn it off because of macros or some nonsense like that that I don't even really follow. So luckily with the internet too, there's a lot of really interesting, easy to go to recipes, and I've learned a few sort of quick hacks, like you said, the smash tacos that I saw that in a video the other day and gave it a shot, and I'm glad I did because man, those are a game changer for me. And I don't have to cut weight for this one either, so that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I guess something that I wanted to touch on kind of in reference to something you mentioned before, and I guess could also potentially fit into a situation where a weight cut wouldn't be a requirement. Like I saw you had some posts. I mean, it's not recent per se at this point. I guess it was even close to a year ago. You were calling out Muay Thai World Cup and WBC Muay Thai for this guy Paul Martin and stuff like that. And it seemed like you had a couple things to say, described his opponent as a soup can and etc. I think you we're talking about how the heavyweight Muay Thai division is abysmal and just things of that
It really
persuasion. Like,
is.
yeah,
It really is. I mean, much love to the Muay Thai scene in Canada. There are some absolute killers, but the reality is, especially in Canada, for combat sports, as soon as you start going above 185 pounds, um, athletes have more options for sports that they can get into as far as contact sports go. If you're a big 6'7", 250-pound guy, yeah, you can do kickboxing, or you can go to school and do hockey, and that might make you 10 times more money. So the thing is, I believe in Canada, it's a very small pool of really tough guys as soon as you go above 185 because there's more options for guys like that in different sports. And so then you're left with guys like Paul Martin fighting. Who did he even fight? I can't remember for the life of me. But if you're telling me that that was a title fight, that was the worst fucking title fight I've ever seen in my goddamn life.
I think it was Donnie Wanch, I believe, going
Oh,
off of your
that
yeah.
fucking guy. Yeah, it was him. Yeah. I'm like, how the fuck is that a title fight? I mean, and frankly, that's not a fight I'm even interested in anymore.
Sure.
I did my trash talking and it led to nowhere. So, I mean, I had some fun with it, that's for sure. But again, I think that just kind of shows how unserious the heavyweight division is in Canada that I can't even get a fight with someone like that because I'm not nearly the best Muay Thai fighter, but I'm pretty sure I could beat that guy. So obviously, I'm championship level as far as Canada's concerned, and that kind of sucks.
I guess even that fits within a post that I saw you had around even a similar time period about the realities of Canadian MMA. And you talk about people above a certain weight threshold pursuing other sports and stuff like that. And I guess this post was around about a year ago. So I would imagine, I guess the sentiment is largely the same. Like, I guess, what are your thoughts
It
on the
is.
Canadian? Yeah,
It is. No, like I touched on earlier, is just that if you're a big scary guy, you have more options. So are you going to do the MMA thing, which has no money in it? Are you going to do boxing, which there's next to nobody in it? Kickboxing, which again, it's even a smaller pool of guys. Or are you going to go play lacrosse, which is going to get you a scholarship? The choice seems pretty obvious. I mean, if I was a big athletic prospect and I told my parents that I was going to be a cage fighter instead of a hockey player, I expect to get my ass kicked by my dad.
yeah, fair enough. I mean, I guess it's, the more lucrative option in a very demonstrable way. But yeah, I mean, it seems like you've had a couple, I guess, issues with that. Like I remember there was also a post, I guess I saw related to Three Lions promotions where you'd kind of stepped up to, fight that Dragon King boxer character and stuff like that.
Oh
But
my
that didn't even
goodness.
pan out too. Yeah.
Yeah, there's I kind of better not go into that too deeply, honestly.
Sure.
But what a crock of fucking bullshit that whole fucking ordeal was. I agreed to that fight on short notice for decent pay. It would have been a nice payday. But ultimately, they decided to get some guy from Venezuela instead of some guy from Alberta. They paid for some guy to fly from Venezuela to Toronto instead of me flying to Toronto because I was too risky. So again, like, what does that tell you about the heavyweight division of boxing at this point in Canada? I'm not even a heavyweight.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to that point, it's probably good that you have a game opponent and a locked in situation here for this fight. I would think that would impart a certain feeling to you, considering some of these aforementioned hindrances getting these things locked in.
It's interesting. You know, it's gonna be the first time that I fought someone. I think he's older than me, so that's gonna be the first time that's happened in a while. And he seems to be about the same height as me, which also is something that hasn't happened in a while. I seem to keep fighting guys that are bigger and taller than me. So I'm finally fighting a guy that, you know, we're probably going to be relatively the same weight. He looks like a pretty jacked up dude. I think he's going to have some power behind his shots, but you know, so do I. So the fun thing is we're going to find out who gets to or who does hit harder. But yeah, it's like I said, it's fun knowing that I'm going to be fighting someone that is my size. I don't have to cut. That's a big thing for me. The fact I don't have to cut. I actually can't tell you the last time I didn't have to cut weight for a fight. So this is it's a nice luxury because now it's one less thing that I have to worry about while I'm getting ready for my camp.
Yeah, I would think that would really like reflect in your general mood and just, I guess, even like the energy level you would have heading into something like this. I would imagine, at least.
You know, like I've had, you know, you always have friends asking you, "Hey, are you excited for your fight?" And it's like, no, I have 15 pounds to lose in a week. I'm stressed out and very unhappy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this time around, like, you know, like I said, because you're not distracted by the weight cut, you can concentrate on the fight more, right? And so, like, I've been able to, like, you know, trying to be work on more things that or to tune to the fight as opposed to trying to lose weight. So, like I said, really, it's a lot of weight off my mind. That's for sure.
And like this is, I don't know, maybe even kind of like a random thing to interject in a certain sense, but I just finished reading Stephan Bonner's book that he did on, you know, Bobby Gunn and stuff like that. And a prominent character in that I didn't necessarily realize would be in it as much as he was your old opponent from circa 2010, Shannon Rich. Like he has quite the experience in the bare knuckle fights, like specifically in a lot of obscure underground kind of situations and warehouses. And I think he fought in like a bullfighting arena, if memory serves, and stuff like that. So just not really a question in there, but I thought that was kind of a fun bit of connectivity. And I guess, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Bless that guy. Bless Shannon's heart. You know, like that guy's kind of like the king of the sideshow, and like he's very old school. You know, and like what you're describing, that's how as close as we're gonna get to like underground pit fighting, and that seems like it'd be very much um, his his repertoire. Is he still fighting?
I'd seen something recently that was intimating he was going to do a bare knuckle fight. I would probably have to like double check on the timing of everything like that. Maybe I can even find it now as we're kind of talking.
I
But I
mean,
did see
like
something quasi recently where he was looking at a bare knuckle fight. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like I'm 41. He's a lot older than me, so kudos to him if he gets in there and does that, I suppose. But that's pretty wild.
Yeah, no, truly a wild lad and whatnot, and definitely a guy who's been in there with so many different people. So yeah, cool that you're kind of, I guess, part of that whole situation. But I guess something I wanted to touch on related to, you know, the walkout mask. Like, are we expecting the Slaughter to Prevail walkout mask here, and maybe even some corresponding music from
No,
the band?
you know what? I Alex Terrible had a fight recently, and they also released a new album that half of it sucks.
Mm.
I was one of those online troll guys, and I left a comment on Alex Terrible's Instagram that he doesn't respect bare knuckle boxing, and that he didn't deserve to have a main event spot on a corrupt rush. Excuse me, to have a spot on a corrupt Russian show like Top Dog, and he blocked me.
Mm.
So my no, I won't be wearing a Slaughter mask, and I won't be walking out to them. We'll still keep it Cody Krahn though. I'm still gonna walk out to something brutal. I haven't figured out just yet what song. I've got it narrowed down to about 3 or 4 really good ones. But I usually wait kind of to the last minute anyways to decide on my walkout song anyways.
Yeah, I remember that was like a bit of like what we would touch on in past interviews. Like you came out to Thy Art is Murder and Run the Jewels and things like that. So it'd be interesting to see what you pick for this one.
Yeah, I think no, I like the fact that I get to walk out to lesser known, and I like more independent artists and like underground stuff like metal and stuff like that. I enjoy the fact that a lot of people have to sit and listen to my music while I'm walking out, and I like to take my time too. So I think everyone should be forced to listen to one death metal song a year, and I'm getting that quota for them.
Yeah, and I guess to the point of Alex, the terrible fighting in bare knuckle already. I mean, who knows? Maybe, if you have a certain appetite for this, maybe we can even have you guys run it in that kind of context. I mean, I can't imagine he'd be looking for that per
I
se, but
would
yeah.
love that. I would love. I was. I might even call him out. Who knows? That'd be a very long shot, but get yourself out there, make your name known. And he has more bare knuckle fights than I do, so it would be a fair fight. That's for sure. I would love that.
Yeah, that would be incredible. I mean, the attention that would drum up and stuff like that. And there's like a bit of a backstory too, as you kind of outlined there and everything. So something to it.
Yeah, a disgruntled fan versus the death metal singer turned bare knuckle boxer. You make a movie out of that.
Yeah, I mean, you could get a lot going with that for sure, even in like terms of like documentary, like build up piece kind of material for it and
Oh,
stuff like
hell yeah.
that. So, but I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here. We got November 28th to kind of focus on here and the bare knuckle debut. But it's been great having you on Bare Knuckle Bowker, Cody, and great chopping it up in general as you're literally chopping it up, I suppose. But I guess, yeah, I mean,
I'm throwing in the spinach. You got to wait till everything else is cooked a little bit, and you have the spinach last because it doesn't take long, and then you get your iron in there too. Health.
there you go. It's good to get your iron, and maybe that could be the parting thought in and of itself. But I figured I'd give you the floor in case you did have any final thought you maybe wanted to add as we are wrapping up here. I appreciate you making the time to talk today, Cody.
um, I just want to say thank you. I've gotten a lot of support. There's a lot of people that are saying that they're actually going to make the drive out there. And the QE2 in November is not a fun highway to drive. So much love and thank you to the people that are going to be coming out. Good luck and thank you to my opponent. Please stay healthy for the rest of your training camp because I plan on doing the same until I get my hands on you. And thank you to Havoc for the opportunity, and thank you for reaching out for an interview. It's been a while since I've done one of these. It makes me feel very cool and important.
I think you're a cool, important guy. I mean, we go back to the
Aw,
XFFC days when we were doing commentary and stuff like that, cage
right?
side. So, yeah.
We go back.
Yeah, definitely a bit of history. And the next chapter in your story, at least, unfurling on November 28th. I hope to be at that Havoc FC card in Red Deer. So we'll see what pans out with that, man. But in any event, you enjoy the rest of your night. Hopefully the training goes well after this. And yeah, great having you on Bare Knuckle Bowker, man. And looking forward to peeping the fight. But until then, you have a good rest of your night. And thank you for the time and insights.
Thank you very much, Dylan. I appreciate your time.